Remembering Lanny, Lannes Kenfield, public access pioneer, co-creator of Revolting News, Theater of the Real, creator of Media Madness, the Ignorant Woodsman, Coca Crystal show regular, videographer, photographer, Lower East Side activist, social critic, humorist, printer, housebuilder, great friend of Tuli Kupferberg, left this world November 2nd, 2003.
Revolting News. We're here with Tom Robbins. We're taping this on May 5th, and he's involved with stories working on now about heroin, and I thought it'd be a good chance to talk about heroin and drugs in general. So, the feeling is that heroin has been, and will be king because of what it does for you in the addictive way, and that coke became like a big focus of the press, and because people on coke act out more because it's a stimulant.
Right.
But that I work on the Lower East Side, and for 27 years, going on 28 years. And the people that, I mean, a lot of the local dealers know me, so they don't ask me if I want to buy this or that. But there's always a new kid on the block, and I would always get enough, as much you want to buy heroin, or whatever.
You're talking about now, Lanny? Talking about now?
I'm talking about throughout the whole period. That heroin has been king. It's just that it didn't get the press because it wasn't new and it didn't have all the popularity, and the fact is that I was reading recently somewhere that 200,000 acres of poppies will supply all of North America with heroin for a year. And no matter what you wipe out or where you wipe it out, it's just such a small area relative to the Earth's size that you're never going to be able to wipe out the source of this. I mean, I'm a pro-legalization for all drugs. Soft drugs, so-called soft drugs like marijuana, as well as heroin. And drugs are legalized for middle class and older white people because people like Bush can take these drugs and throw up on prime ministers and stuff, and people make a little joke out of it and stuff like that. But poor people and young people who are taking the illegal drugs are the ones that are filling up the prisons and costing us billions of dollars. And my feeling, however, is that you have to have a treatment program. You could spend 10% of the enforcement money that we spend on enforcement and interdiction, on treatment, and take a big bite out of crime, increase the tax coffers, and and just make a big difference. Now, I'm not. And we, for about 12 years, and we have squatters living next to us, and just from my own personal experience, before they were there and began to fix the place up and spend their own money and time and effort, we had a lot of drug dealing and fires going on and artists coming down and wrapping the buildings in gauze and a lot of things that only hurt us until the squatters came. And they are good neighbors and they help fix the place up, and that's from my personal experience. We have our house. We don't have to worry about housing. But it just seems so odd that you would put people out of their homes. And also these sweat equity groups, if you want to call them squatters, have spent their own money, and if these banks want to come in and take advantage of all the work that these people have done and throw them out on the street, the word community is really not something you can describe as far as this goes. And I just hope people come to their senses. There's plenty of vacant buildings around without taking buildings that people are already working on. Thank you. I'm Lanny Kenfield, who is behind the camera tonight. Tonight we're talking to the staff of the New York Planet, a downtown paper that's recently come out. And I'd like to introduce you to Chris, one of the three editors, Susie Miles, Alan Melandro. And we'd like to talk to you about a very interesting new paper. Maybe we could hold it up here.
Please, yeah.
Zoom in on it. This is a recent issue talking about how the city's trying to steal all the
Yeah, the lead article deals with HPD's plan to remove itself from the business of owning city-owned buildings or running city-owned buildings.
Focus. Hi. This is, we're continuing on with the Declarations of Independence by Howard Zinn, available at all better libraries everywhere. Continuing on our free speech, and this is the final chapter called Taking Our Liberties. If government deceives us and the press more or less collaborates with it to keep us from knowing what is going on in the most important matters of politics, life, death, war, peace, then the existence of the First Amendment will not help us. Unless, of course, we begin to act as citizens, to put life into the amendment's promise of freedom of expression by what we do ourselves. British novelist Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, among other things, once said, "Liberties are not given, they are taken." Liberties are not given, they are taken. We as citizens want freedom of expressions for two reasons. First, because in itself it is a fundamental to human dignity, to being a person, to independence, to self-respect, to being an important part of the world, and to being alive. Second, because we badly need to help it change the world and to bring about peace and justice. We should know by now that we cannot count on the courts. We covered this in other shows. Courts, Congress, the presidency, to assure us the freedom to speak, to write, to assemble, and to petition. We cannot count on the government or the mainstream press to give us the information necessary to be active, critical citizens. And we cannot count on those who own the media to give us the opportunity to reach large numbers of people. Therefore, it seems Huxley is right. We will have to take our liberties. Historically, that has always been the case. Despite the Sedition Act after the American Revolution, in which some people were jailed for criticizing the government, hundreds of other pamphleteers and writers insisted, at the risk of prison, on writing as they pleased. They took their liberties. We need to remind ourselves of individuals who have insisted on their freedom to speak their minds. Emma Goldman was a feminist and anarchist of the early 20th century, whose views on patriotism, agreeing with Samuel Johnson, the last refuge of a scoundrel, as in the last refuge of a... patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. On preparedness for war, violence begets violence, and on marriage, it has nothing to do with love. It is an insurance contract.
That's what Emma said. These are her quotes.
These are quotes from Emma Goldman. Well, it is an insurance contract. It has everything to do with property and health insurance and...
Well, it's a terrible world when you need to be insured of things you deserve. You should get all the time.
Love is something between two people. And on free love, what is love if it is not free?
Emma said that.
Emma said that. On birth control, a woman should decide for herself whether or not she wants a baby. I'm going to get the phone. We're going to turn off the show for a second. Okay, Becky. So Emma Goldman was talking about birth control and whether that a woman should, this is turn of the century, by the way, a woman should decide for herself whether or not she wants a baby. And this argument's still going on, of course. Outrage, many people, all this outraged many people and certain authorities. She lectured all over the United States. Wherever she went, the police there tried to stop her. In 1 month, May 1909, police broke up 11 meetings at which she spoke. And the key word here is spoke. She was arrested again and again, but she kept coming back. In San Francisco, she spoke to 5,000 people on patriotism. The crowd stood between her and the police retreated. When she came back to San Francisco the following year, the police broke up the meeting using their clubs on members of the audience. In East Orange, all these things don't necessarily always happen in big cities either. For instance, in East Orange, New Jersey, police blocked the entrance to a lecture hall. She spoke to her audience on the lawn. In San Diego, a mob kidnapped her lover and manager and tarred and feathered him. She insisted on coming back to San Diego the next year. When she lectured on birth control and the use of contraceptives, she was repeatedly arrested, but she refused to stop. She opposed U.S. entrance into World War I, as most socialists and anarchists did. She knew she was in danger for encouraging young men to resist the draft, but she continued to speak. She was tried, imprisoned for 2 years, and when she came out of prison, she was deported from the country. But she continued to speak her mind on American events, the Tom Mooney case and the Sacco and Vanzetti case, flinging her thoughts across the ocean during her long exile in Europe.
Erotic poetry.
Erotic, I'm sorry, not sexual. Erotic poetry reading at the New York Cafe down on 3rd Street. But in his stead, he has asked me to read, he has updated a cartoon that he and I wrote together a couple of years ago, and the original cartoon had the sign, "This part closed for your convenience."
Thank you.
Now it's come true.
Yes.
And the copy goes, "No longer see the unsightly poor." Hey, they stink. The drug ravaged. 3, the fucked over Vietnam vets. 4, the dying AIDS victims. No longer see. 5, the crazed young commie anarchists yearning to be free and having music and sex.
Our people.
Thank you, your dishonor, David Dinkins. Commish Brown, Godbaum et al. Oi, where are junk bonds now that we need them? You know, Ed Koch at least...
The Arkansas traveler himself, Lanny Kenfield, back from an extended absence.
Yes, exactly.
Buddy!
From a tour of New England, of course.
That's right. Now, you and Tuli were on tour.
That's correct. And yeah, we went to Brown
University.
in Rhode Island. Right?
Yeah, okay.
And Keene State, Keene, New Hampshire. One of our old buddies, Edmund Kilbourne Chafee III.
Yes, right.
Still the world's oldest student, still going to Keene, New Hampshire.
Is that Buzz?
And performed by, sometimes known as Buzz to his many fans.
Exactly.
And Tuli's still on tour. He's doing a couple of gigs in Boston, back to
Provincetown.
and which is why he's not here tonight.
That's right. Well, great.
We had, and also, as you know, yesterday was Columbus Day.
Yes. And it was one of the first ones where there's been a lot of outpouring of indigenous peoples against Columbus all over the world.
And where were they the last 499 years?
Well, they're here now, and I think it's great.
That's right.
I think it's terrific.
Well, you know, Columbus was just a man of his times, right? A murderer, a slaveholder, a plunderer, and as we hear from the director, a maniac.
A maniac.
Right? No more, no less. And they gripe about how he introduced slavery to the Americas.
Right, so
but don't forget, he introduced it to Europe. He captured some Indians, brought them back to Spain, and Isabella said, "I told you not to do that, and don't ever do that again." And he did it the very next voyage. They almost threw him in jail for it. But enough about that. Let's hear about the Columbus Day in Berwick, Pennsylvania, where we have...
Yes. We have.
This photo. They brought over some former Italian soldiers. Isn't this a nice looking man? This is a local resident wearing an Italian, something like the Italian Green Berets, this group is called, that wears this hat. And this hat is the Bersaglieri, which is some of the, you know, however, once you read the story, they want to tell you how great these people are that came over to visit, right? The Bersaglieri officers came to Berwick at the invitation of Tonola, who was the guy you saw. who was a veteran, right? Formed in 1847, Italian monarchy, the Bersaglieri is comparative American with Green Berets. The visiting World War II veterans, ranged from 75 to 85, fought on the Russian and African fronts. One, Lorenzo Fusco, was named an Italian national hero by, who else? Benito Mussolini, they want you to know, right? So, well, which just goes to show that Aldamado's not the only fascist in the United States today.
No, he's not a fascist, he's a a right-wing extremist. He changed it.
It was an unfortunate term, as Bobby said. So we also have Sinead O'Connor being in the news again, not just ripping up a picture of the Pope, sort of a mild-mannered protest that got all the people upset. But if you can believe Larry Sutton of Applesauce in today's news, she also is quoted as saying, selling marijuana is one of the most respectable things anyone could do. I think everyone should smoke it. And we're taking her advice.
All right, just a minute.
On that note. S. O'Connor. And given her hairdo, I would like to bring back some family values, some American values. How about Barbie dolls?
Okay.
The new talking Barbies you all know about is $25. Oh, man. Right? And what does she say here as we go up? Yes. Burgers and fries sound great. Until I have a heart attack.
Burgers and fries sound great.
For $25 you need someone to, burgers and fries sound great.
Maybe she's tripping. Maybe she's hallucinating that the burgers and fries are actually talking to her.
They don't taste great, they just sound great. Right,
yeah.
They sell the sizzle, as they say, right? Remember that horrible crash in Holland that killed 200 people last week?
Yes, I remember that.
Not true.
What do you mean?
Well, if you read page 14 of today's Newsday, New Dutch toll 67 people. So you can't believe everything you read. Apparently, Dutch authorities lowered their estimated, not that you want to be thrilled that 67 people died, but it's better than over 250.
Well, they came up with the 200 right away as sort of a hypothetical amount, I believe.
It's obviously hypothetical because it's not true. What they found out was that many of the people were on vacation that were missing. Others had moved out, hadn't reported, and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of happy news, but also gives you an idea of what you can believe in the newspapers.
Cartoon by Tuli Kupferberg. And we have, of course, the scene Godsville. Mersgod says, "Yes, I do think sperm is a good idea, but how are you going to distribute it?" Mr. God has to think. This was in the formative stages. Mergod.
People who sell chicken are darn proud of their restaurants. Like, here's a restaurant in Saratoga. It has, like, well, you can see how much bigger than the phone booth it is. We'll get we're zooming in as we speak. Pretty darn big chicken, about 13 foot of chicken here, right?
How do we know it's not a tiny phone booth?
What's that wise ass?
Sorry, okay, it's a really big chicken.
No, it's
a really big
see
chicken.
how big it is?
Really,
my
really
finger dwarfs it. Right?
Sorry.
Here's another chicken. This from a small town in Ontario.
Oh, how cute.
This
Looks
is
like
the
a budgie,
chick.
yeah.
The chick, chick, I drove by here one year. I go up there during the summertime. I drove by one year and I saw the chicken. I drive by the next year. The chicken's not there. So I said, hey, what happened to the chicken, right?
Yeah.
They said, well, it's in for repairs. Right?
Yeah.
And I come by the third year, and sure enough, the chicken's back up there. And they said, but it did have a hat, but it had been stolen so many times, they decided not to replace the hat. Vandalism in small town Ontario, right?
Wow.
And of course, the sign up here, which you can't read, says,
yes,
every day is chicken day.
They do chicken right.
Is this
It's a chick.
Chain that was built on low-level radioactive waste dumps.
Well, it is on a slag heap in the mining area near Bancroft, Ontario.
That's a pack.
Very cool.
But yeah, it is. And they have world famous
They're rioting in the
French
studio
fries
on
there
it.
that I had never heard of.
What kind of French fries?
Crunch fries or something.
Cool.
They call that's the name of it, world famous French fries. And the secret is they put breading on top of the French fries. So what are you going to do? Well, Georgia, this from a recent edition of Times Leader, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, has its own, Wilkes-Barre to you, pal.
Wilkes-Barre,
has
right.
its own chicken controversy going here. This is an AP story, actually.
Yes.
An outcry from people dressed in chicken feet, chicken hats, and an entire chicken suit have saved the big chicken that is being plucked off its restaurant perch. And who is the bad guy? KFC, as they're now called.
Yes.
Kentucky Fried Chicken,
see.
right?
Yeah.
However, people dressed in chicken suits have saved it. They can't tear down the big chicken. It's our landmark. This is Marietta, Georgia, by the way. Our claim to fame, said Marsha Williams, a lifelong resident of the Atlanta suburb. She carried a "Don't Fry the Chicken" sign to her with a rally of 400 people last Tuesday. And Lauren Sockwell, 9, who donated $1 to Kentucky Fried Chicken to repair the sheet metal symbol, said it was nice to look at. KFC Corp. of Louisville, Kentucky, received 10,000 calls and letters to its headquarters from people who wanted to save their feathered friend. The big bird will fly again, said KFC Vice President Chuck Rowley. KFC will also motorize the bird again. It's like not the world's greatest
what does it do?
Chicken. I like this chicken the best. But what can I tell you?
Well, this is not even a chicken.
It's a frame.
That is not a chicken.
Well, this is a fiberglass chick.
No, that's a budgie.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
It's
a Canadian chicken.
Okay. Oh, I see.
No, the beak, which is up near my beard somewhere, the beak formerly moved, and its eyes rolled. I supposedly upon getting its head cut off, but until noise from the motor broke nearby windows. Okay, and not only that, renovating this chicken as well as a restaurant will cost more than $200,000, but KFC is going to go ahead and do it.
Funny.
And they liken it to another local landmark,
Whoa.
the Long Island duck.
Oh, local for us.
Well,
Yes.
we're near Long Island.
No, it's local for us.
Well, they do mention the Long Island duck in this story. I had skipped a paragraph.
Wow.
Paragraph 2, which I skipped.
Oh, my God.
The 56 tall bust, which rivals Long Island's Big Duck, as well as Honolulu's Dole Pineapple. Apparently, there's a big pineapple in Hawaii.
Whoa.
As quirk landmarks in a national landscape, which had been threatened by extinguishment because of 30 years of damage from pigeons and wind. So the Long Island duck, quack, quack, had apparently originally the Long Island duck was a farmer selling eggs out of this duck. So,
Cool.
and don't forget the cement elephant in Atlantic City, New Jersey. In case you're down there and lose all your money, walk over and see the 20-foot tall cement elephant. All right. Here we have a book called what? Our final item for this show.
Who can read?
Mao Zedong wrote this book called Oppose Book Worship.
Yeah, I get
A
it.
likely story.
Yeah.
Probably a personality cult or something. Anyway. And don't forget to tune in next week
When?
we have the trials and tribulations of substitute teachers and the lengths they'll go to quiet their students and get fired for their...
for Christmas? Perhaps Lano Flow. To show you that products, consumer products, are not just on the hard sell. Here's an ad that appeared in Sunnyside and Casket magazine. Originally there were two magazines, Sunnyside and Casket magazine, but of course not enough people died, so they had to merge. Now Sunnyside and Casket magazine. This from Royal Bond Company of St. Louis, Missouri, the makers of Lanoflow and Lanoco. And the copy goes, the loss of only a small amount of vital moisture from the facial tissues and membranes of a dead body results in the dry, shrunken leatherizing of incipient mummification, causing added grief for the mourners and embarrassment and loss of patronage for the mortician. Now, for the first time in the long history of embalming, dehydration-free embalming is possible in every case, regardless of pathological emaciation, climatic conditions such as deserts, things like that, or time lapse between injection and internment. Now every operator can create and maintain true living naturalness that assuages grief and encourages the purchase of a better service. Lanoflow and Lanoco are guaranteed to produce naturalness that you have never imagined possible. They are guaranteed to prevent even the slightest trace of dehydration, regardless of time or temperature handicaps. Don't forget the desert. Enthusiastic funeral directors report bodies held from 1 to 5 months with no dehydration, discoloration, or other adverse effects.
But can they do a live show?
That's what we're doing here now. I have been personally injected with Lanoflow and Lanoco, and you can see it has restored my natural moisture balance. Laniflow and Lanico. And it's maintained through a unique process of chemical welding the emollients to the tissue substance. The skin remains velvety, pliable. The features in a repose of restful sleep. Regardless of time or temperature, there can be no future dehydration, no separation of the lips, and no need for lip wax or other restorative procedure. I do actually occasionally need a little chapstick.
That's a spin-off from that.
Well, I do have parting of the lips occasionally, such as now. But as it says, a single bottle is sufficient for the adult body of average size and condition. Think of it. No more separation or parching of the lips. No more wrinkling or parting of the eyelids. And you know what that can mean on a dead body. You know, you don't want a dead body winking at you, right? No more shrinking and hardening of the features, whether the weather is hot and dry or internment must be delayed. Think of it. All of this is possible with Lanoflow and Lanoco. Regardless